This is the first and only Gundam that I have ever built, and I only built it because I got the kit for free at a Comic-Con that I went to. Now, I know almost nothing about Gundam, but I think they're really cool, and I've always thought it'd be fun to build a fun diorama with one. Just not this one, since it's my first one and I don't want to mess it up. So I went to my local craft store and picked up another kit. This one with a coupon was pretty affordable, so I don't feel super bad if this whole thing fails. This Gundam kit is a bit more complicated than the first one I did, but still relatively simple. The instructions are well written and everything is well labeled. Now, I'm not going to show the entire process of putting everything together, not because I messed up or anything, of course not, but mostly just because it's kind of boring to see me put it all together, and this video would be like an hour long if I showed every single part. So here's a quick little montage of all the plastic parts coming together, and this whole process was pretty fun. Now, most of the time when I'm building these robots, I'm building them from scratch, and they're not even painted yet. So this is a welcome relief to have something that's not only already painted, but that actually is meant to go together, and not just bottle caps stuck to pen caps and things like that. And when I say already painted, I do mean the plastic is pre-dyed, but you know what I meant. All the parts snap together super easily, and there's no need for any glue, which is great. And here is the entire model all put together. Now, it is missing its shield that I built off camera, as well as the blaster and the two laser swords, which connect to these two sword handles on the backpack jetpack thing here. Like I said before, I don't know really anything about Gundam, so feel free to correct me if I say anything stupidly wrong. And I thought it was cool comparing the second Gundam that I built to the first Gundam that I built. I know they're different models and different ages, but kind of cool seeing all the details. Now, the hands in this configuration are meant to hold the blaster or the swords, and so they have these holes in them, which I don't really want. So I will be replacing them with these other Gunpla hands that I had. This allows me to add some different hand shapes and also get rid of those holes. The top of the hands aren't white yet, but I'll paint those white off camera. Now, this is my first time using panel line. Basically what it is it's a super thin ink paint kind of stuff, and you just touch it on the panel lines and there's some black magic. I don't know how to explain it. Actually, I do. It's science, but magic sounds cooler. Anyways, I just dab it on the lines and you get these awesome details. Now, I know some people deepen their panel lines by basically scratching them deeper with a sharp piece of metal. I did not do that in this case. Now, I had heard rumors that panel lining can cause cracks like this, and of course I didn't believe it, but it happened to me. I guess it weakens the plastic and then the pressure just makes it crack. It's unfortunate, but doesn't really matter since I'll be painting over it. Speaking of paint, or powder in this case, I got my hands on one of these Tamiya weathering palettes. It's basically a little makeup kit for your models, and it comes with this little brush and sponge thing, but I'll be using another one because I don't want to ruin the one it comes with. I'll be using about 20% rust, 80% oil, and then I just give the whole thing a good scrub down. I especially hit the edges first, and then work my way in. And then I can use a paintbrush and blend everything together. And honestly, this is a really cool technique. Another first for me right here on camera. And I think I will definitely be using this on future projects. I know it's working really well, mostly because it's on white right now. And unfortunately, most of my other robots and droids, I don't paint white. But we'll see how it works on those robots later on. And listen up for a very special announcement. I have got my very first patron! Woo! But seriously, thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate it. If you also would like your name flying across my screen, either on the left and or right side, you can join my Patreon. There'll be links in the description at the end of the video and on my page. If you're enjoying this content, please consider dropping a like, consider subscribing. I've got a whole bunch of other videos on my channel over 100 to be exact. And if you like this one, I'm sure you'll like at least a few others. And we are just going to keep this weathering party going. I'm using some dark rust and some fresh rust. And I'm just using a little sponge here on the tip of a hemostat. I dab on some of the darker rust, and then I'll add some of the lighter rust on top. I also use a tiny little paintbrush to get into the cracks and crevices. Now, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I think I may have gone too far with the rust. I think I added too much, and it was covering the Gundam and sort of blending it into the background too much. If I had had more time and unlimited funding, I think I would have just either started over or tried to take the paint off. I'm really not sure. Let me know what you think down in the comment section. Is the rust okay? Is it too much? Maybe I just need a little bit next time. Let me know what you think. Anyways, you know what they say, hindsight is 20/20, and past me just kept on slapping on that rust like he had no worries in the world. I'm going to leave the rust paint as is for now, and once I get everything posed, I'll finish the rust painting later on. Moving on to the base, I'm using this craft store wooden frame, and I will add a piece of foam core with the paper removed, and that will be the start of my base. To make the crumbling building that the Gundam is leaning against, I'm using foam core, and I cut two pieces that are the same size, at least width-wise, and then I trace out the sort of outline of a crumbling building. I then use this metal ruler to space out the floors. And this ruler is about 1 inch and a little bit thick, so it's about 1 inch per floor. Technically, this model is 1:144 scale, and so I tried to match the building to be relatively the right size, but I'm not going on any super accurate measurements, mostly just what looks right to the eye. This little window template that I made came in handy to draw and cut out all the windows. It made it quite easy to replicate. Once I have all the windows traced out, I can cut every single one out with a sharp X-Acto knife. Then using some foam safe superglue, I can glue the edges together and glue it to a foam base. For each floor, I use some chipboard and I just trace out a crumbling floor shape and then cut it out with some scissors. Luckily, the edges don't have to be super pretty because, they're a crumbling surface. So the worse, the better, I guess, as they say. I don't know who says that, but I say it. I then use some foam safe superglue and glue all the floors in place. I thought it would be cool to have a crater in the middle of my diorama, and so I add an inch-thick piece of XPS foam, and then I draw on a crater shape using a permanent marker. I can then cut it out using a various level of knives and brute force, and glue it in place with some more foam-safe superglue. I mix up a batch of homemade Sculptum mold, which is just a bunch of toilet paper ripped up into tiny little chunks, some Mod Podge, some water, some paint for flavor, and then some plaster of Paris. I mix it all up into a nice black goop, and then I can start spreading it out over the crater. I just spread it out with my finger here over all of the foam. And before I get too far, I do add a couple of metal pipes that are supposed to be like water pipes coming out from the bottom of the building, and these are made out of some broken knitting needles that I had. And once the pipes are in place, I can continue to scoop the goop all over this project. Can you tell I'm recording this at 1 in the morning? No, probably not. Anyways, I add a bunch of these extra pieces of foam core that I cut up and shaped into pieces of rubble and other pieces of building that has fallen apart. And through the magic of painting, it will look like concrete later, but yeah, right now it just looks like a big pile of trash. I also add some rocks that I stole from the outside and sprinkle over some dirt that I also stole from the outside. Sprinkle, 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 sprinkle. I spritz everything down with some isopropyl alcohol and then use some watered down Mod Podge to lock all of the dirt and rocks and foam in place. Finally, we can move on to painting. For the building, I'm using this gray, Mod Podge, and modeling paste all mixed together, and I'm just going to stipple it over the entire building. And this will get 2 coats of gray. Once that's nice and dry, I hit it with a black wash, which is just a mix of black acrylic paint and isopropyl alcohol. The base gets a coat of black paint and watered down Mod Podge, and this is just to make sure everything is super stuck down. I'm mostly using the Mod Podge here. The paint really doesn't matter because I'm going to be painting it black anyways, but that just shows where I've painted. Once that is thoroughly dry and ready, I can paint it with a coat of flat black primer from a rattle can, and then I will dust it with a coat of white. This just gives me some artificial light and shadow, and then I will cover everything in a coat of watered down gray paint. I then use some foam-safe superglue and glue the building in place. Now we can move on to one of my favorite parts, which is adding all of the foliage. This is model making grass flocking. It's basically tiny little pieces of green foam, and I've mixed it with watered down Mod Podge and a bit of dark green paint and black paint just to add some color variation. I just scoop on a little chunk of it and then I start to spread it out into a more natural look. Once I finalize the pose on the Gundam, I can start to lock in all the joints with some super thin superglue. And then once that is fully dry, I can start to paint the rest of the rust. I'm mostly getting in the joints and crevices that I couldn't quite get to before because of the position of the Gundam. And we're finally in the home stretch here. I can glue my Gundam down in place. Once he's fully secured, I can add some more of my moss to the shoes and other areas to blend it into the rest of the diorama. I wanted some spotlights shining on the Gundam, so I'm using some really tiny pieces of plastic and building some little spotlights. These are just made out of styrene, some tubing, some other pieces of plastic, and of course some super tiny pre-wired 3-volt LEDs. I bend the wire to shape and then I install it in my spotlight. I'm just using a bit of UV resin to plug up the hole in the end, and then I'll cure it with a UV light. Then I paint the entire thing black, and then a coat of silver. Now I was having trouble finding 1/144 scale human figures at my local hobby store, so I went to my local train hobby store and found these N-scale track workers. Now technically N-scale is more like 1/160 scale instead of 1/144 scale, so they're a little smaller, but I'll still make them work. These things are also super expensive, like $20 for these little guys, which I guess makes sense because they're hand painted. So hopefully this video does well, so I can get my money back on these. Now I know these are already painted, but I wanted to give myself a challenge and paint them myself. So I gave them a coat of flat black primer, a white highlight, and then I'll be giving them little yellow jumpsuits. I'll be painting them off camera though because they are so small it is hard to paint with a camera in my face. At this point, it's already Friday night, and this video needs to come out tomorrow morning, so I quickly install all of the LEDs, run all the wires, install all my little yellow men. This is how big they are in the scale of my pinky, and just a little super glue goes a long way in making these stick in place. And once everyone is glued down, this project is basically done. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you had a fun time and you enjoyed this video, consider dropping a like, consider subscribing. Like I said before, I've got a bunch of other videos on my channel, and if you like this one, I'm sure you'll like at least a few others. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, I have links at the end of this video in the description and on my page. It really helps me out, and I appreciate every single one of you. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns, put them down in the comment section and I'll try to get back to you. Thank you again so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.